Last time, no demo, the worst meeting ever. Rebranding. So today, demos.
Yeah, I can do a demo.
Don't say anything. I'm trying to remember, but don't say anything. Trying to make my memory work. Shh. What was it about? Don't tell me. I need to. Ah. What was it about? Let me think. I said yes. It might be interesting to have it. I don't remember. Okay, tell me.
GraphQL queries.
Ah. GraphQL queries. Oh yeah, GraphQL queries with a uppercase Q. Yeah. So who else has demos? The demo. Nobody. So sad. So sad. Okay. Then topics, questions. We talked about 1.0 doing trash last week, so we'll do a status check. And look at some PRs that were merged. Well, we'll see that the PRs that were merged, we'll see that because they are merged. So they are there. They are there. Orchard 1 fetch since last week, 27. Nothing new in Orchard 1 has been merged. There is one PR right now about still open about output cache and authenticated requests and anti-forgery tokens with comments. This one, 27 in the morning. So we have seen that and that, and no, not that. Okay, script liquid. I think we saw that at Twill. Script liquid. So the idea is that this one should be at the top instead of the foot because the default template puts it at the top. Shortcode modal for HtmlField with Monaco editor. Okay, this is the shape that displays the pop-up with all the shortcodes available. And now it's available in the Monaco editor. Change to correctly keep track of closing divs in the taxonomy field. Okay, so bad code to close the divs. It's funny, I remember exactly doing I remember doing the exact same kind of code when I wrote the first version of taxonomies 10 years ago. I had to deal with, okay, if there are inner divs, so you need to close them when you back up. Funny. But I was doing it with ULLIs, so these contributors and the rows. Siberian. Webpack update, fix timefield migrations, which I assume is rated to 1.0 release to ensure that we can migrate from RC2 to 1.0. The goal is that if you want to migrate to 1.0 from a version before RC2, you first need to migrate to RC2. It works with RC2, and then you can apply the 1.0, the dev branch or the 1.0 branch to migrate from RC2 to there, because this is the only supported path. Because the 1.0 branch, dev branch, doesn't contain any code anymore to migrate from a previous version than RC2. Thierry, who has been refactoring the projects and their dependencies to remove some unnecessary dependencies, to fix the dependencies when they have to make sense, like adding a YesSql abstraction data, also YesSql. This way, some of the modules that need to use YesSql will reference that and not a generic infrastructure project that will include it for everything. The ultimate goal will be to have custom projects for storing stuff in YesSql. And if you want, like all the CMS modules will use YesSql, but if we have like users, they could store everything in something else. So that would be great to be able to reuse modules without the CMS ones or without YesSql. Here's someone knocking at the door. Yes, it was Gabor. Just it was just Gabor. Didn't knock, just entered. So yeah, so moving stuff around. And also we mentioned that we'll see here, instead of depending intrinsically from a module or a project that will include some libraries, if a project depends on this library, reference it. This way we can remove, let's say for instance, OpenID was depending on this project, which was including Newton subJSON. So if this project needs Newton subJSON, it should also reference it, such that if this one is removed or this one doesn't depend on Newton subJSON anymore, it will break this one. That's something also that Thierry has been doing. Upgrade to Fluid 207. I don't see 20. I see 208, and there should be 209 because stuff happens. So nothing interesting here. I might talk about the fixes in different Fluid. That might be interesting to know what's new, what's missing, and what's fixed. Later, I will take a note. Maybe over Fluid updates just to mention the fixes that went through there because we don't see them directly. A summary text for dynamically created menu item. Okay. Update Razor documentation. Okay. Copy paste. Extension method. Modules. Okay, updated doc. Fix typo in HomeController namespace. Okay. Decouple modules from infrastructure. Again, same way of updates, moving stuff around. Dependencies. Good. Dependency on ZString 242, which is a library that provides string builder and now also a string writer with zero allocation. So it's allocating an array, a buffer on the stack for small buffers instead of creating a new string builder. That's good. And a new char array. And then Antoine updated where we use the pool to use a ZString writer. Be careful, it should not be done everywhere. If it's too big, it will go back on the stack, but I should, yeah, in this case, it's good. But for this one, okay, debugger to string, okay. Let me see, HtmlField string, yeah, that's fine. Good, so less allocations. and it was merged on the 30th, so 5 days ago. And while we are there, let's take a look at the perf of Orchard. It shouldn't change at all. And that is something interesting because we keep improving the perf, but we don't see the perf improvements. So we are still blocked by the same bottleneck that we should find. I think I had found what, I don't remember what. So you see, it's stable. We don't see these changes. And we can also see can we see the allocations there? Yeah, not much less allocations. So we need to find the big culprit. That's good to be able to track it. Just a side note, alternates for widget parts. This is beautiful. So many new alternates. And contains two things, not just for widget parts, but also for dynamic parts. And it's also documented. So this one is interesting. Template file name. Yeah, this was wrong. Yeah, that's weird that it was using the underscore for the file names. That's how it should look like for file name. Okay, so this is the same. This is the same. Blog summary is part field. Content parts display modes. Okay, for static content parts, you can decide how to create custom display modes. Fine. What do we have? Display mode, display mode, display mode. Content type, display type, part type, shape type, display mode again. So many examples with display mode. Is that just for display mode, these examples? Okay, no, widget here. Widget slash stereotype, okay? Because widget is a stereotype. So now you can say whatever stereotype like widget, display type, which is optional, and the part type. And which can also be the part name. So in this case, change the HTML part for every that is associated to any content type that is a widget, or HTML body part that is for any widget only in summary mode. Okay? So that is brand new. That's what Mirage added. And other examples when you have part names here like this. So when you use the same content part but with different names, example services, but it could be if you had an address part, it would be business address, shipping address based on the name of the address inside the same content type if you use the same part multiple times. What else? Same thing for widget and all the shapes that you can return, the shape type in this case. As a reminder, when you have a part, usually we render a single shape with the name of the part. Example, list part. So the list part creates a shape named list part, okay? But the list part also creates a shape named list part field. So it creates multiple shapes. So this shows you how you can customize each shape for each part that the driver returns. And then same thing with custom shapes or custom part name and custom shapes. So same thing as before. So lots of examples here. maybe too many. It's interesting that you can, yeah, that makes sense. You can customize a specific shape from a part driver for specific modes. That makes sense. But we have maybe never have had the need for that. That's good. And we may have never had the need for that because we don't have many drivers that return multiple shapes like this one. I know this one, maybe there is another one, but I can't think about more. Package dependencies, okay. GraphQL, Webpack, update on thread, update of shortcodes because I updated a lot, and it's a big jump. There were some other dependencies before that. Oh, this one, but the doc was not updated. Code generation template module with part. Fixing templates or making it better. This one is simpler. Fluid. Okay, nothing here. Adding spatial features to content. So from Pete Davis and Jasmine. Brand new feature. We got a demo. There's a YouTube video now also. And is it missing a pipe here? Maybe. Looks like.
Yeah.
You even have maps. Beautiful documentation. Wow. Thank you, Jasmine. Body.body. Good. AngleSharp and HtmlSanitizer package updates with perf improvements from Monaco. Fix permalink already in use. What is that? Monaco Sierra Leone. Fix permalink already in use. So the request where the query was wrong, apparently. To verify that another route is already in use.
Yeah, in this case, it was an edge case with taxonomy contained routing.
Okay. Now you use that. So it was there already. Okay. Cool. Fix tags editor to work with unique settings. So it was broken. Good. Spatial doc. Okay. Module generation with part, again, templates. Ah. All good. Questions? No questions. Okay, no questions. No questions. Then demo, Jean-Philippe, because it's an interesting new feature that people should see before you create a PR, if they have feedback and how much they want it or they not want it.
Give me a sec. Okay. Tell me when you can see.
We can.
You can. Okay.
Squared screen. That's weird.
I'm trying to make a small screen in my browser. All right. So I was working on a feature for one of the apps we're building, and I needed to export a bunch of data that had nesting in there. So like a type that referenced another type via content picker that had a taxonomy. And I wanted to use GraphQL in Liquid, but I could not. So what I ended up doing is implementing a query type, a GraphQL query type that basically allows you to use a GraphQL query in the admin interface and Liquid. So it's using the same principle as the SQL query or the Lucene query. I would definitely make some improvement of the editor, but basically, so here I just put a link to GraphQL, but if I were to make a PR to OC, I would probably integrate GraphQL here and allow users to create queries with it directly. So for example, right now I already have one set up, so I can show you. I have a type called a contact request, and I wanted to, export these 4 fields there. So you can run it in GraphQL, and you can see the output there. But when you want to use it in a Liquid template, for example, like this, right? You could not. So I will show you what it gives. Search queries on GraphQL. So if I run it here, same thing, it shows the data. And you can use parameters. So right now, it's not following, this demo is not following the GraphQL variables and parameters. Usually you would define them at the query level. Here I'm simply using Liquid to output parameters. So anywhere you can put like this. So you can basically do anything, just like you can with SQL queries. I think this will work. On type, did I write it wrong?
Lowercase.
Lowercase? Oh, thank you. There you go. So you can see here it replaced the variable. So it's not true GraphQL. It's a templated GraphQL with Liquid, but I made this as a proof of concept that it could work. So after I created the query, I showed you how it can be used, and here's the page in the front end where I display the output of that query. So if I'm to refresh, and I can create another one for fun, and it adds it there. Yeah, so that's about it.
So it's also available in the API REST endpoint?
Yes, I believe if I go to role, I'll just pick any role and then core manage execute. So you can add permissions to it, and it makes it available, yeah, at the API level. For my use case, I used it in a workflow HTTP response, Liquid, like the body of the response there. So I could output a file as JSON format. Yeah.
So yes, as you mentioned, I think the graphical experience will be much better than the text editor, because I mean you can type if you want, and you can also build it with the Explorer, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And using Liquid for the GraphQL query, I'm not sure that makes sense because it has parameters.
Yes, you can add parameters to the query
So
use the GraphQL variable.
The parameters should be used directly as parameters for the query instead of templating the query.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to be able to template the query because you can change the shape of the query completely.
Yeah, in GraphQL, you cannot use the parameter anywhere or as freely as you could with Liquid. So I don't know. I have to play around with query variables. I haven't done that in a while. One limitation I found was that when you run a query, it always returns an array. But so this one I had to return, but basically return a single object with data and an array. And if you were to have a typo in your query, so if I create that one, the front end would get the error, right? So my second query, and I'm gonna go edit my page here. And you can see the error. So it might be good or bad. I was not sure exactly how to design it, but if I do a PR with OC, it would be a bit different.
No, I don't think it's bad because we can assume that that when you execute the query, even in Liquid, you can deserialize the object and get errors or data, so you can check if it has a data property or if it has error properties in the Liquid template even.
Yeah.
So just deserialize the JSON object and expose it to the data. So because when you run the query, definitely I see. Yeah, so maybe the query itself should return this raw JSON object this way because you invoke. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, the current query interface is hard coded to return an enumerable of object or something like that. So I made it work by just outputting the first one, I think.
Should we break it and return an object?
Good. But yeah, that's all I had to demo. If you have any other question or suggestion, or if you think it's useful that I spend a bit more time and do a PR to OC for this feature, I would be happy to.
What do people think? I don't use Orchard, so I don't care.
So, I mean, one of the difficulties with using GraphQL is that you tend to have all that all your queries in a spa or some other thing. So the idea of actually being able to predefine some queries for the people building the spas or other features makes good sense to me. Looks good.
Which you can already do with SQL and Lucene because we can expose them as endpoints already. But what is interesting here is that if you don't want to enable Lucene, or if you don't want to type SQL because you don't know what to type in SQL, maybe here it's better because you have introspection of the model. Like if I ask you to build this query in SQL, it will take you much longer to do it.
Yeah,
because you have no idea what fields are available. Here it's auto-descriptive. So you can still build queries more easily here. It's an indirection to SQL in the end, but it can be easier to build custom queries for the admin or for the front end.
One thing I was not able to do, I didn't do a bunch of research on it, but was to return documents. So when you do run, you create a SQL query, you can click a box that says return the documents. In this case, it might not make a lot of sense because you're basically writing the format of the data that you want. But I'm not sure you can use this with like the like build content items with it, with shapes and everything.
You can just say, well, you don't have to provide this feature. You can just export the content item ID and let the user load the documents by content item ID.
Yeah, if they need. So that's one thing I wasn't sure. But for my use case, it was just to export some data parameterized in a client-side view, but passing it from the admin.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's useful to have a second load for the content item because, as you said, you can load everything you want here. At the same time, if you really want the full content item, can you do that?
Could we add something to this to load
no,
it?
I'm wondering if we might still want the content item in full because some of our APIs, they will want to display something.
Yeah,
so that might be interesting. So in this case, it would be a convention. Like if you check the box, you would say the GraphQL has to expose a list of IDs. So whatever the object is containing, but the result should be content item ID something.
Yeah.
Okay. And you will just list the data and then pick the content item ID property and load everything. But it's still a second query. It's kind of sad.
Maybe there's a way to include the content item here, like have a new, I don't know, data loader or something that would output it for this use case. So when you check it, you get the actual content item, so you can build a shape with it. Maybe, yeah. I was not sure about how to do it because you can render, so maybe that fixes the issue. I don't know.
But what is contact request? It's a content item?
Yes, it's just a simple content item with 3 fields. So if I want to use, and it looks, so wait, if I just enable this feature, what I would need, I guess, is to include like this format, because contact request name text, whereas in the GraphQL query, it's just name. Like there's no .name.text.
Okay.
But anyway, everything's possible. I think it's just.
Yeah, I'm sure it's custom. Yeah, as you said, a custom loader or something to return the JSON document instead of custom properties.
Yeah.
But that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably GraphQL has that mostly for the fields and the things already. So I think that should just be a matter of plugging it in.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, can you create a custom SQL query and then, I assume you can create a custom SQL query and then expose it through a GraphQL query for even more indirection?
Yes, you can do that. I'm pretty sure.
So cool.
So the GraphQL query, I made sure to not implement the loader or the data loader, is it? So I can't like run a GraphQL query from a GraphQL query, because then you get into an infinite loop, I guess, or you could potentially get into an infinite loop. But
and Dean's question, or everyone else, is because we already expose all SQL queries as GraphQL endpoints also?
I think so.
So yeah, you create a query and then
just
when you go to
all queries, either Lucene or SQL. So
yeah.
I'm not sure what I have to put at the
you need the
schema.
Yeah, otherwise,
I think if you put something in here and it's documented, it will show up in GraphQL and in your GraphQL schema. So that works too with this. Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Thank you. My screen because I have so much to show. What else? That 1.0 status check because it's more interesting. Issues. Milestones 1.0. What do we have? This one, nothing else. Test migration. This should be good because Dean tests it every day to be sure it's working. Update branding. Update branding. There is a new contender, but we will agree that this looks nice, but not as nice as what Paris and Co have done. And this is, it was from yesterday. Logo with regular, so that's text showing. So green for color, narrow display font. We have stepped into logo with regular circle. So now I have no idea what we are talking about anymore. So where is the PDF? This one, which appears there. So then regular circle means this one, I think. Yeah, so this one, regular circle. So do we have something complete with this option or do we not? We do not. Yeah, like this one. Then it says green for color, which is this one, and narrow display font, which is, I assume, this one.
Versus the rounded one.
Versus this one. So this looks like that. Yeah, so it looks like it's this one here, but the PDF, okay, so now it looks nice. So I will paste it so it makes sense to everyone and myself. Okay. So this is the elected suggestion. And we'll see how we can proceed now to have all the assets and update that on the sites and everything. So that's good. Image sharp memory usage. Someone found a memory leak. Not this one. So I find a discussion to talk about the memory usage, but then someone found a memory leak. And it has nothing to do with this discussion actually, which is interesting.
No, but Antoine there is doing some work on their memory management stuff, which over the next month or so. So the issue is found with by Mario there. In terms of the actual leak, and then the other memory management stuff we'll look at when ImageSharp come back with some changes.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to merge, but not to, it hasn't had a release yet, but it should have a release this week, I think.
Yeah.
It's on MyGet, if anybody would like to test it. It's available on their MyGet feed.
Yeah, he said they could pretend like it. So yeah, so it's good. So this will be solved, and then nothing else, minus some PRs that we might want to merge. There is some work on the audit trail PR. And all the things I've seen so far on the audit trail PR have nothing to do with what we said we blocked the PR. Just a reminder, Gabor, I see you very active with the versionable, draftable, blah, blah, blah. And but I don't think it was. So it's good that it's fixed. One comment on this PR though is that I see that there is discussions about should it be something by default or should you do that by default and so on. And to the two options seems reasonable. So maybe think about an option, a setting. Like if some users want this behavior, they check this box, and otherwise they check this box and they will have the behavior. Makes me think about something else, but no, I won't talk about it. Yeah, so 4.1.0, that's almost it. So audit trail, PR or not. And as Gabor will say, we can always ship the audit trail after, right? That's what you said. That's what you said.
Yes, correct.
He said we can ship it now and fix it later, but I'm rephrasing it to we can ship it later. That's fine. Anytime you want. It's a new feature. It can be anytime.
We don't really have much stuff to fix regarding the Aurelia PR, I think, for now.
Is it the last one we said or not? Okay. Oh, it's more recent than that. Yeah, it's more recent than that on the trail. Yeah. Look at that all this discussion. Can you summarize what was the discussion with Jean-Thierry and the decision you took for that?
Yeah, it's just about how can we handle the content types if the content type is versionable or not. Because by default, if we have a content type that is not versionable, you know, in that case, we every time override the properties of that content item in the debut, I think. And our trail is about to record the changes both for the versionable and both for the not versionable content types as well.
So you want to store the document even if it's not versionable in a specific.
Yes.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. So
well. I think that's fine, but maybe some people would like to say, well, I don't care about storing the full story of the document if it's not versionable. So that's why I'm saying maybe it should be an option.
Yeah, it's an option because you have a list and you can say that I don't want to track the changes of the content type, or I want to track the change of this content type. So it's not depending on it's draftable or sorry, it's not depending on it's versionable or not. It depending on what types you select that you would like to track.
So Jean-Thierry agrees with that?
Yes. And we also have a new collection for the AureTrail items, so it will not be in the documents table because we can have thousands of AureTrail items. We have more than that, yeah. We have a trimming, but users can have an option to, you know, turn it off if they don't want to delete the records.
Retention period.
Yes, 10 days by default.
Great. If you need to give an update demo, please do so. Okay.
Okay, sure, but you will slightly see the same because it's just about, you know, stuff, code behind stuff, not so much about the UI or not so much about the working of the module.
Okay, so let's see what Jean-Thierry does.
I talked with Jean-Thierry yesterday about this PR and
in French.
Yeah, in French.
Good. Best.
And I found out that sometimes there's a background task that will remove the audit trails over time. So by default, it's set to 10 days, I think. And maybe someone that has like a e-commerce website that has orders content type will not want to get them disposed.
Wait. So, that's a bad example. If it's an order, it's an order. You might dispose the changes to the order. I don't know, but I mean, you don't change an order. The order is a historical data that will be stored forever. It has nothing to do with the audit trail. That's a bad example. I'm sure you can find better example.
Yeah, but maybe I was thinking like an invoice or something like that. We should always keep the history for going back to see what happened. So who did what on the invoice or things like that. Yeah.
So some content types might want to keep their history forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And some might want to clean. So yeah, so this is important. I get it. We should,
Yes. But maybe that's kind of a feature request that could be added in the next OrchardCore.
Yeah.
So right now,
it's a special one, and Orchard 1 doesn't have that either.
So right now you can't do, you said you could do that. You could select by type. Oh, you can select if you want the retention to do the retention or not by type, but you can't select how long by type.
Yes.
So I mean, who cares about, who cares? I think it's fine to not be able to set the retention delay per type, but at least to set the retention delay and to set which content type have to be kept or can be cleaned. So can you today say this type needs to be kept, or this type can be cleared and this type should not be cleared? Can you say that?
Right now, not.
Right now it's everything or nothing.
Yes, everything or nothing.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see. There is a content type that trims all events, not per content type, but there is a retention period setting. I see. Yeah, that's interesting. So that kind of sad. I mean, at least you can say disable.
I should probably make the point that this is audit trail rather than content item versioning. Content item versioning still exists as well and is more of a version history of the life cycle of a document rather than an audit of what happened on it as such.
So now I'm confused. Why is it two different things? Why is it two different things then? Because if I want to keep some things, so the history of something, why not use the versioning and have the retention policy be based on versioning? And then audit trail will just look at the versions. And if they are not there, it can't look, but then enable versioning because you want to see the history of the thing.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably the discussion that Gabor and JT have just had, and landed on the theory that auditing tracks all changes to a document, but versioning, if you have a draft version, you can make 10 changes to that, and those changes might get recorded. Only the final draft, when it is published, will get recorded. So just subtle differences, I suppose, in the way versioning works.
Yeah, by using versionable content types, you will not get a proper history of the life cycle of the content type. Because as Dean said, if you have a content item and you save a draft version of that content item 10 times in a row, the draftable, the versionable or not versionable property will not take effect in this case.
Okay, so you track all the changes even on the draft.
Sure.
Yeah, you have a delay between your unmute and when you talk. So I heard that you unmuted, but I didn't answer. I didn't hear.
Yes, of course. I will
thank you.
track the changes of the draft versions too, between draft versions too.
Interesting. Okay, so that
yeah.
Thank you.
But it works like in Orchard 1.
I don't remember. Who wrote the audit trail in Orchard 1? You? Well, Lombik?
Not me. I think Sipke.
Okay, I don't remember. Okay, that's great. And
the retention period and keeping the records is working in the same way as it works in Orchard 1. In Orchard 1, you cannot say that I want to keep the records for this content type forever, but I don't want to keep the records for this content type just for 10 days.
Yeah, okay. How I will do that is just a setting in the type with an audit trail section. Like we have the versionable, draftable in the same page, but for audit trail, you can select the date, sorry, the delay. An option will be default, which is what is defined globally, and another option will be to type what you want. It shouldn't be that hard, but it can be done later. I agree with that. That's good. Awesome. So everything that has been said and decided here is good. Okay, thank you. Updates on Fluid. Let's see. I said I will talk about the fixes. There are interesting ones. If I look at the commits, just because I don't remember everything since a few weeks. So yeah, people found bugs that we fixed. Accessor cache. There was a bug here. Is it? Let me see. I want to see the PR because I'm pointing to the issue. If you were to pass two different types of models that have the same property in your template, then it will fail because there was a cache of the accessor per type and it was not correctly invalidated. It's a weird thing to do, but it can happen. So the same template, but with two different types of entities. That was an issue. Allow model members option. Yeah, this is something that we have true by default on Orchard, which is when you render a liquid template with a model, all its properties will be available by default. Okay? But you can also decide to not expose these properties by default and to opt in into each property. Filter declaration sample just documentation fixes in the parser. Casing in, so this one I fixed this weekend. This one is that you can use camel case like this and snake case, also with the unsafe member access strategy, which is when you can access everything without registering the type. I don't think we should use that, but it can be changed in the options. If you don't want to have to register custom properties and types, you can use that thing. And also I did some unit test and I did something, I don't see it here. Yes, this one is the most important actually new improvement or fix. When you use tip. So first tip, if you want to check if something is defined or not, like foo equals empty, will let you know if this is defined and if it's the empty string. Okay, so that's very useful. Second thing that is useful is default. For instance, foo default which will use foo, or if foo is empty or if it's false or nothing, then it will use bar. And that was not working because it was just checking if it was null. If it was an empty string, like something like that, it will keep the empty string, and that's wrong. If it's an empty string, it should return the default. So that's the fix, and that's kind of important because that's very useful to check. So you could do that with the if empty, but now you can say, okay, print foo, or if it's not defined. So that's the updates on Fluid. 2 minutes, beautiful. And that's it. Questions?
The compile option, is that?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, is that something you have to opt into, or is that on by default?
You have to opt into, and in the tests here, where are the tests for Fluid? So in the test, you see I have the compile and the not compile. So by default, I run everything on compile, and to use the compiled version of the parser, you need to call compile, and it still returns a Fluid parser. Okay, so that's what is nice. So it's not on by default, but all the tests pass with that. I didn't want to make it by default because it has a cost. It's faster, but it has a cost at startup, and maybe there are bugs. So I don't want to enable it right now. All the tests pass, but you never know, right? I don't test 100% of all the things that are rendered in Orchard, so I'm not sure we want that by default. The idea is that this is new from Parlot, so every grammar that you create can be compiled to an assembly, to IL, and it will optimize, it will make the parsing phase 20% faster. But in Orchard, it's not the parsing phase that is the most important, it's the rendering phase, unless we do previews, in which case we parse and parse and parse again. So this is kind of important, but otherwise we cache the thing. So yeah, we could try to enable it. If you want to try, I mean, try to run an Orchard instance with the .compile. It should be super easy to change, because at some point we have a new liquid view parser and just do .compile on it, and you will have the compiled version of the thing. So
something to try and see.
Yeah. Maybe also in terms of perf, but I'm not sure where you will see that because it's already so fast, like to parse the thing. My next goal, though, is to have the rendering to be compiled, and that will help probably. Unless we have to see numbers, but that will be more impactful because we render all the time on your request. That'd be interesting to have the same perf as Razor, but with Fluid. Let's see. Good. Any other question? Great. Then thank you. See you on Thursday or next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.